Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody asks you why, I'm here to ask why not. So sit back and relax or walk and listen and join me on this journey as we try to answer this never-ending question: what makes people say, why not? Hi guys, welcome back to Why Not. So here I am again on my own, like a loner. I'm only messing. I am doing a solo episode today, as you may have guessed. But I want to talk about something that has kind of come up a few times for me in the gym recently. And I find, like, because I'm relatively fit, for want of, I don't want to sound cocky, like I'm in good shape, whatever. But I train a lot, which is true. And I also eat a lot, which is also true. But I do find a lot of people tend to assume that I train every day. And it's been coming up sometimes. People are like, I'm sure you train every day, or them wanting to do more. And I'm kind of like, no, firstly, I don't. I try to train Monday to Friday if I can. I try to do 5 weight sessions a week. Not always possible. Sometimes things happen. Like last week, I wasn't able to in the end, but I still got 4 sessions in. And I make a point of trying to do that so I can have 2 good solid days off at the end of every week. I take the weekend off training. And it's interesting because actually I do feel like by the end of the week I'm ready to have that rest from training. And I think there is a misconception that in order to be fit or look a certain way, you have to train every day, when actually it's the exact opposite. It can actually be detrimental. And the thing is, that's why I want to talk about it today, because it is a topic that is incredibly overlooked when it comes to training. And it is the importance, not just the like scheduling in, but the importance of rest days. And they are so incredibly important that so many people don't realize how important they are. And it can result in loads of different negative effects on your training, as opposed to getting you that extra that you're looking for. Now, this as well, this means it's for all levels. Rest days are important if you're like like a top of the line athlete. They go through so many different things of recovery, especially after matches or races. Like, if you saw the different things they have for recovery, after games, they have specific, like for instance, rugby, there's specific drinks with extra calories, electrolytes, and all that they take after such an intensive workout. They have things like ice vibe boots. They do saunas. They do ice baths, and like that's not just rugby. This is similar for other athletes, other disciplines. They all have specific regimens to make sure that they keep as fit as possible. So after a very intensive workout, they want to be able to recover as well. And yes, their their training loads are a hell of a lot more intensive. They do need more help. They are more prone to injury. But also, when you are just a normal day-to-day trainer, or exercise person, I don't know how to describe that, someone who trains as a hobby, someone who trains for fitness general, you also need to take this into account, because obviously as well, when it comes to, no one's coming out of a gym session and having a specifically made for them shake. You might have a protein shake or something like that, but a lot of us aren't necessarily eating enough and eating the right amount around our training. And when it's not your job, it's not as like important, but it does also aid your recovery. So if you're not eating properly on top of trying to train and train and train and train, it's only going to really go one way eventually. So, and that is injury or burnout or both. um, so with that, like, let's talk about why rest days are so essential, okay? And firstly, we want to talk about, exercise of all types, but especially in intense workouts. It doesn't actually matter what the level. What we're doing is we are creating tiny tears in our muscle fibers. Which I know you're probably saying, what? I don't want to pull a muscle. No, this is not what's happening. It's actually a good thing. You need these micro tears, and what happens is when your muscles do this, they grow back bigger, stronger, better, and they need time to repair. So, for instance, if you've ever tried to do a very intensive workout or the same type of workout 2 days in a row, you might notice that you're not able to perform as you were yesterday. And that can be very frustrating, and you wonder why the hell, like, I was able to lift all this yesterday. But the reason being is that those muscles are damaged and they need their time to recover. So that's why you might see some people who train multiple days a week do splits. So they might do upper body, lower body split, or they might do different muscle group splits. And the reason being is they are actually resting those other muscles to give them a chance so they can perform better when they come back a week later. So look at it that way. Someone who is doing a 5 day week, for instance, me, and I actually split into 5 different muscle groups. The reason I do that is because then, even if I go upper body, lower body, for instance, you're only training one group of muscles each time. So while you might train 5 days a week, my legs are only being trained twice a week. I do quads one day, hamstrings and glutes another day. And that gives you the chance to perform properly. Whereas if I was doing something with legs every day, by the time the week came, end of the week came, I wouldn't be able to perform the same level, and I might actually start to see things go backwards, which can be incredibly frustrating. And like, that's the thing, without adequate rest, our muscles don't have opportunity to heal. And on top of having fatigue or burnout, can lead to injuries or overuse injuries. So, for instance, have anyone ever had tendonitis in a shoulder, or plantar fasciitis, or Achilles tendonitis? Any form of those. Itis means inflammation. It normally happens when you've been overused in a repetitive strain injury. Your tennis elbow, golfer's elbow are also forms of tendonitis, but itis means inflammation. This inflammation often comes from overuse, from you doing the same thing over and over again in the same group of muscles. So, how do we avoid this happening? Because we want to be able to train as much as possible and get the best of our training sessions, we need to mix things up, or we take rest days. And this goes for every type of um, training style, like running. I don't know if anyone's ever tried to go for 2 long runs, 2 weeks, 2 days in a row. Your legs feel like lead. It's horrible. And that's also how we end up with like Achilles injuries, and sometimes, things like plantar fasciitis is overrunning, overuse on these muscles. And you have an idea if you are feeling with some, like, you're having some of these issues, because it's the same things, the same exercises give the same results every time. So you start to feel these issues again. And it's just really important that these are signs that you do need to rest. Like, there is times when, I know I've said before, you don't need to rest, but there's other times when you do. And by rest, I don't mean take 2 weeks off. You might just need a day to let it recover and let the muscles, you might need to take a couple of days. But if you're training so intensely and you're starting to feel your body break down, that's a sign that you need to change something up a little bit. Like, you want to think about your body as a high performance machine, right? You know, like any machine, it needs regular maintenance to function at its best. And rest days are actually part of that maintenance. You know, not only are they helping your muscles recover, they're also helping you replace your energy stores, because you are loading your body with cortisol. You are like affecting your central nervous system when you train, and this is actually giving your body time to drain out that cortisol out of the body. Because even though it is an enjoyable stress, it's a stress nonetheless, stress hormone, and also gives your time central nervous system to recover. And we have glycogen in our muscles, it's just carbohydrate stores in our muscles, and we want to be able to replenish that without it being used again. Um, and that's just all going to reduce that risk of injury, improve your overall performance, and give you a chance to like push harder. And these are the days when your body starts to adapt and build that extra strength, so we can push a little bit harder next time you come down. So I just mentioned cortisol there, and let's talk about it a little bit more. So stress hormone is cortisol. Intense training can spike these levels, and that actually leads to muscle breakdown and weakened immune system. So when we take these rests, it helps keep the levels from exerting themselves, going too high. and ensure your body remains in a state of promotes growth and recovery rather than breakdown. And the thing is, as well, is cortisol is not just coming from training. Cortisol comes from everywhere in our life. There, how we eat, how our stress and work is, how the kids are driving us mental, and all of these things are contributing to your cortisol levels. So we don't want to overload them with exercise as well. And your body doesn't know the difference between good stress and bad stress. It all comes out the same way. It all processes it the same way. So whatever way we can do to manage those levels are really, really important. And like, the thing about rest day as well, I think people think that a rest day means you have to sit still. And it's not that at all. You can very easily go for a walk. You can do like light exercise. Um, a light swim, a light, if you want to do an easy yoga class or some stretching, they're all forms of recovery. Now, I will say some yoga classes are a workout in themselves, so you want to make sure you're going to something like yin, which is not easy, but it's more of a focused on slow movements. You don't want to be going to a high intensity like aqua aerobics class or hot yoga class. You want something that's like, if you're going for a swim, you're going for a little smooth up and back, very relaxed. And your body will tell you when you need rest days as well. Like, you don't necessarily have to keep going until your body tells you rest, but the signs are there. And sometimes you do have to take maybe a little bit of an extended period off. Like, you might just have to take a week off. Or one thing I'm really big fan of is when I feel a little bit tired, when I feel like I'm not vibing too much in my training, it's take a deload week. So you still train, but you don't push yourself quite as hard. You take the percentages back, and you just do what you know you can do. Um, you're not going to make any massive gains that week, and that's fine. You need to be okay with that as well. If you're taking a deload week, if you're taking a rest break, you have to be okay with that. You have to not be trying to find ways of getting everything in instead, different ways of doing it. No, it's about giving yourself that time and feeling okay about it, because it's going to really help you in the long run. It's a benefit. It's a hard time now if you're like me, who just loves training all the time and hates taking breaks. You have to agree with yourself that in the long run it's better for me. And sometimes you just listen to your body and you go, like, my body's not able for this today. And that's okay. And that's okay if you cancel your class or you don't train that day. Just make sure that it's truly because you're very tired, not because you don't want to do it. And there will be days when you don't want to do it as well. I've talked about this before. I am definitely one of those people who doesn't want to do it from time to time, but it's just part of my routine and I keep showing up and doing it. And I think as well, we have to remember as well that there are actually mental benefits to taking rest as well. So like training can be mentally exhausting, right? And if you're training for a goal, great. If you're not training for a goal and you just like to do it, there are some days where you just don't want to do it, and that's okay too. And sometimes you will be more stressed from work, or you might have had a really busy day, you might have slept really badly, and actually what's better for you mentally is to sit on the couch and watch Carnation Street or something on Netflix, or listen to a murder podcast or anything but go to the gym. Some days the best thing you can ever do. But like, it gives you time to give your mind a break. Like, if you are taking a rest day, and I know life can get in the way, it's important to try and clear that schedule for whatever way you want. If you're going for a walk, just put on a podcast and chill, or if you're going to relax, try not to be playing on your phone and stimulating your mind in other ways, or going through 6 million different lists that you have to do for the week. um you know the rest for your mind is as important as the rest for your body. And when you have that time to just sit down and do nothing, which I love those days, by the way, they're fantastic, it can really help you recharge, and then you'll be more motivated coming back. I hate the word motivation, but when you're on low energy and low mental capacity and everything's just like ugh, sometimes having a day where you just sit on your arse and do nothing. I know it's very hard if you have a family or stuff like that, or responsibilities, but sometimes having those days make you wake up the next day, you feel refreshed, you're ready to take on anything. And the motivation, when I'm talking about motivation, doesn't necessarily mean for training. It could be for any part of your life, like, and it really just can help to just have those switch off days, and I'm a big fan of them. And sometimes I love nothing up on a Sunday to just ignore the world and sit down and do nothing, and it's great. um but yeah, I suppose for me, I really want to talk about this because I get that so much, that you probably don't train, or people beating themselves up for taking days off, when sometimes it's really, really important. And sometimes your priority can't be to exercise, and that's okay. And, there are things in life that'll get in the way. And sometimes you have to make a decision which is more important. And I think for a long time, there was this, I suppose, mantra in the industry, it's like, it's not a priority for you. It's you're not, you have no motivation, you're just not have the right priorities, blah blah blah, all that shite anyway. And now I think people are maybe making a move to being a bit more holistic about it and being a bit more compassionate with themselves. I myself would have been one of those ones, and it was very rich for me. I had no kids or no life to, to deal with outside of. I just worked, and I worked in a gym. But now I kind of see it from the other side, as still with no kids, but I understand that life is stressful and life is hard, and sometimes you have to take that time. And even if the rest day becomes a rest week, sometimes that has to happen. And sometimes, as I said, other things need to take priority. So I think the reason I'm saying this is I want people to know that, rest days aren't a sign of weakness or a lack of they're not a sign of weakness or a lack of commitment. They're actually like a really, really crucial part of any effective training program. And, you know, it helps you, like, incorporating those days, improve your performance no end. Because there's, as I said, there's nothing worse than when you're trying to do something, you're tired and your body's not responding. And I see this so often with people as well, and they're getting so frustrated with themselves. And honestly, if they took a couple of days off, it would be so much better. Or also remember, if you're having a bad day, look at the world around you. Like, what has happened? Have you had a good sleep? Have you eaten properly? Have you, there's a list of things you can go through to see. It doesn't necessarily mean you're just bad at life. And I think it's really important to think about that before you start beating yourself up. And, you know, another great thing, I suppose, rest days prevent injuries. And I know multiple people who have different injuries and ignore them constantly. I have some slight niggles, for want of a better description, and I do ignore them too. But I know how to manage them as well. And sometimes just taking a break or reining back what you're doing can actually help you stop that injury from progressing and make things a hell of a lot easier when you do go to train. And then the main thing is not burning out, because I see it every time, every January. I see it in September. I see it when people join the gym, they want to do every single day. And within a month, they're gone because they're too tired, they're burned out, and they've had enough. And really, I think everyone should just be a bit more realistic, ease themselves in, start nice and simple, do a couple of days a week. If they have time for more, do more. If they don't have time for more, don't worry about it. See how much you push yourself harder in the days you can go. And this whole, I hate when people say, it's like, if I stop, I won't go. And you're like, yeah, but if you just, like, not stopped but took a day where you gave yourself a bit of rest, you actually probably last longer. um and yeah, I just hope for anyone out there who might be struggling, who feels like they can't take a break or take a couple of days off, hopefully this is a sign to you that you can, and it won't ruin your progress. By the way, it never ruins your progress. And that you are okay to take a rest, and you will feel so much better when you come in if you take those couple of days off. So take that as your permission now if you're struggling to give yourself the compassion to take a day off. And with that, I think I will leave you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. You will catch me over on TikTok and Instagram. You'll find me at strong the saddle with _. And then at strong the saddle, sorry, with the underscore is Instagram, without the underscore is TikTok. And you can also find my website is www.chrissyhawkins.com. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this episode. We shall talk to you next week. I really do appreciate everybody who listens to this podcast. So if you please could help me with the algorithm and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And even, if you want to reach out and suggest topics for me, I'd be delighted to hear from you. Drop me a DM on Instagram or TikTok. And thanks again for listening.